Hello and welcome to our Peg Doll Ornament Craft program to celebrate a steampunk Christmas carol. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Pat, and we're from Anaheim Public Library's Heritage Center. And today we're going to look at the history of peg dolls and at the steampunk genre, and we're going to have a selection from Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol.
Peg dolls, or clothespin dolls, originated during the Victorian era, named for Queen Victoria, who ruled the United Kingdom from 1837 to 1901. Toys were expensive and not considered essential, so it was common for families to make toys from items they found around the house rather than buying them.
A doll could be made from a clothes peg used to hang clothing on the line to dry. The women and older girls would sew skirts and dresses to wear, and they would have scraps of clothing left over, and they could use that to make clothing for a peg doll.
Steampunk blends the beauty and automation of the Victorian era with steam-powered technology and elements of science fiction, like H.G. Wells' Time Machine and Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Steampunk designs often include gears, cogs, clocks, goggles, jetpacks, flying machines, robots, steam vehicles, sea monsters, old-fashioned dive helmets, keys, and there's a lot more things that it can include. We thought it would be fun to add some of these elements to our peg dolls and imagine a steampunk Christmas carol, because the story takes place during the Victorian era, during the time period of the steampunk genre. Nicole will demonstrate how to create Ebenezer Scrooge using the items in the provided kit. But you can use your imagination and items around the house to make any of the characters from A Christmas Carol.
We hope that you already have your peg doll kit. If not, there are a limited number of kits available at Anaheim Public Library. Call your local branch to get more info.
For this craft, you're going to need a pair of scissors. And in your kit, you will have the following items. One printout containing a short history of peg dolls and the steampunk genre. One wooden peg doll and stand, one template of doll clothes, and on the back side of that there's some steampunk symbols printed out, a 5-inch square of felt, a ½ ounce of white glue and Q-tip for application, although if you have a hot glue gun, we suggest you use that. It will work a lot better than just white glue. One black pipe cleaner, and a small plastic bag containing some very teeny tiny items. There's a black top hat, a mustache sticker, one metal gear, 3 jump rings, 1 clock hand, a 1-inch piece of lace, 2 colored beads, and 3 small rubber bands. Okay, let's get started on our peg doll. Now, we prefer making our dolls without a face, but feel free to use a Sharpie pen to add eyes, nose, and a mouth if you'd like. Now, the first thing Nicole did is cut out the double-breasted coat and arm from the doll clothes template. Next, she's going to wrap the lace around the doll. Put it just below the head and glue both ends to the wood. Now you'll have to hold it until set, but you can secure one of the little rubber bands around the lace to hold it for you. If you have a hot glue gun, it should be done in seconds. Nicole's going to place the coat template on the felt and cut around the shape. And she's putting it on the edge of the felt so she can save the rest of the felt for the arm and maybe for a scarf. You may want to pin your template to the felt to keep it from moving around as you cut, or you could trace around the shape first and then cut. Whatever's easier for you. Now, from the scrap of felt that's left, you'll want to make sure that you have a rectangle that you can use to make the arms from. So go ahead and cut out a rectangle. Should be at least 2 inches. Okay, next we're going to glue the coat onto the doll. You'll put a dot of glue on the doll's back, and then place the doll in the middle of the coat with the top of the collar at the bottom of the head. And next, put a dot of glue on the front of the doll below the lace. Wrap the left side of the coat around the doll and press the bottom right corner onto the glue. Now pull the top left corner of the coat down to form a triangle and glue the triangle onto the coat. Now we'll do the same thing on the other side. First, put a dot of glue on the front of the coat, and then wrap the right side of the coat around the doll, pressing the bottom left corner onto the glue. Now, instead of the beads, you could also use the jump rings to make goggles, or they could be used to make a monocle. Okay, now we're going to glue watch hands to the metal gear. So once the watch hand is dry, then you'll glue it to the side or top of the top hat. Now you might want to give your doll a mustache. So if so, you'll want to remove the backing from the mustache. And even though it's sticky, it won't stick well to the wood, so you might want to glue it on. You may want to give your doll some hair. You can draw some on, you can glue yarn or maybe pillow fluff on the head, but we're just going to put on a top hat. It's a little bit easier. So place a dot of glue at the back side of the doll's head to glue the top hat on. You can cut out and glue any of the steampunk items from the template printout onto your doll as you wish. Now, Nicole showed you how to create Scrooge, but you can make any one of the characters from A Christmas Carol with things you have around the house. We made a Marley's ghost by painting the peg gray and added a bandage around his head, gave him some hair, and a chain with locks and keys. For Bob Cratchit, we used a smaller peg to make Tiny Tim, put him on the shoulder, and made Tim's crutch from pieces of takeout chopsticks and string. And his little shoes came from a toy robot. So the ideas that you have can be endless, and you can think of all kinds of things that you can do with your steampunk doll. Some other ideas you might have are you could make a jetpack, or you could make a hanger so that you could hang the doll on the tree. And you might use gears or maybe the jump rings that were in your kit to put buttons down the front or back of the coat. While your craft is drying, we're going to read an excerpt from A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens.
The door of Scrooge's counting house was open, that he might keep his eye upon his clerk, who in a dismal little cell beyond, a sort of tank, was copying letters. Scrooge had a very small fire, but the clerk's fire was so very much smaller that it looked like one coal. But he couldn't replenish it, for Scrooge kept the coal box in his own room. And so surely as the clerk came in with the shovel, the master predicted it would be necessary for them to part. Wherefore the clerk put on his white comforter and tried to warm himself at the candle, in which effort, not being a man of strong imagination, he failed.
"A Merry Christmas, Uncle! God save you!" cried a cheerful voice. It was the voice of Scrooge's nephew, who came upon him so quickly that this was the first intimation he had of his approach. Bah, said Scrooge. Humbug.
He had so heated himself with rapid walking in the fog and frost, this nephew of Scrooge's, that he was all in a glow. His face was ruddy and handsome, his eyes sparkled, and his breath smoked again.
Christmas a humbug, Uncle? Said Scrooge's nephew. You don't mean that, I am sure. I do, said Scrooge. Merry Christmas! What right have you to be merry? What reason have you to be merry? You're poor enough. Come then, returned the nephew gaily. What right have you to be dismal? What reason have you to be morose? You're rich enough.
Scrooge, having no better answer ready on the spur of the moment, said,
Bah!
Again, and followed it up with,
Humbug!
And that is all we're going to be reading for you today. But if you're intrigued and want to see how Scrooge ends up, go to your local Anaheim Public Library branch and check out a copy.
And stop on by the Anaheim's Heritage Center. We have a display right now of a Christmas carol. We have a steampunk Christmas tree, a train, some photos, and you can see them all through the window of the Heritage Center. Goodbye. Thanks for joining us.